one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
Welcome to Discover Crypto Live. We bring you live content 5 days a week, and smash that like button as you come in because we got to talk about some major news. The dollar is collapsing in real time right before our eyes. Bitcoin is soaring as a result. We're going to explain the breakdown right there, and we're going to talk about some altcoins as well as comparing Cardano versus Ethereum, a battle of the L1s. And we have Josh back from historic trip to Florida. How was your Florida trip?
Dude, it was absolutely amazing being able to speak to all those representatives and senators. Unanimously, like we saw in real time, representatives question anything from like why Bitcoin to asking what was crypto. There's still a lot of education that needs to happen on the representative side. But ultimately, even the ones that didn't understand the technology understood that everybody else did, and they still voted up, which essentially means yes. So we went through the committee. This is going to now more or less start moving towards the Senate. And it was a huge historical day for Florida because, I mean, a unanimous decision was insane. It was a bipartisan front, 0 no's across the board. And it looks like every politician realizes like this is the next step in our financial systems. This is the next step in investments for a state level, whether it's through Bitcoin strategic reserves. And it was really cool because the conversations aren't just about Bitcoin now. They brought up Chainlink. They brought up Ondo, or not Ondo. They brought up Solana. They brought up XRP. And while you don't necessarily want an XRP strategic reserve, we can't explain why maybe within an amendment or within certain bills we'd want digital assets to flourish within a state. Like, how could that be beneficial? How could we seek more investment? So it was just really amazing to be a part of that opportunity. And shout out to Representative Barnaby, who's, of course, sponsored the bill and everything Samuel Arms has done in terms of the language and, creating this and getting it done. It was really cool to be able to just participate within that and help push this through that House committee. So really cool time.
I noticed you're not tan. Josh, you're wearing a suit, right?
I'm actually shirtless right now. I was wearing we had the suit on yesterday. We were looking fresh, and it was a good time. But
and it's not like you were down there hanging out. They were joking that you went to Florida and you don't look more tan. Yeah.
It took me 7 hours after the show yesterday, or 2 days ago, which me and TJ then did an emergency live in the evening because of the tariffs. I literally got in my car, drove down there, got there at about midnight, woke up at 6 a.m. so I can be at the courthouse. And then we were there, or not the courthouse, but the Capitol. And then we were there, or the House floor, and we were there till 11. And I literally got lunch, drove 8 hours back up. So
it's not like he was sitting on the beach.
Like
he was working
hours in the car the last 2 days.
Yeah. But you also went to the courthouse because of like a DUI or something?
Similar. I can't get a DUI driving a Tesla. I was actually sitting in the passenger seat. But no, that's what was difficult. It's only a 4.5 hour drive. So I was like, I'm not gonna fly that. It's gonna take me an hour to check in, hour to fly, hour to
plus
get out.
Atlanta-based airport travel. I mean, Atlanta airport is just
terrible.
You're losing hours just that process.
I was like, I'm gonna drive, but then I forgot I have a Tesla, so I had to charge twice, and I added about another hour to the trip, and then plus stops and food. Yeah, it was, but it was worth it. It was so worth it. I'm hands down. We have so many more things you guys are gonna be seeing that is just a taste of what we've been getting done. And I could tell you the next step from here is going to shock almost everybody in this chat. Our whole focus is bipartisan. We leave the politics aside when we are in those rooms and we're talking about just the growth and the prosperity of crypto. And that's what matters on those floors. So it's exciting, guys. W's in the chat. I'm excited. And we'll be bringing you guys alongside with us here. So,
all right. Well, let's go ahead.
No, we got a lot to cover today, but I just wanted to get to the chat. I mean, there's a couple different things in here. One person, there was a super chat mentioning the PPI collapsing. And he says, what is Powell doing? I think meaning, I'll see if I can pull it back up. I lost it. Meaning, is he going to cut soon? Because obviously CPI is looking good. PPI is looking good. All signs point to pump, potentially happen, or prints potentially happening here to balance things out. So I do think that's going to happen. And then a lot of people talking about the Binance Ondo listing. So that officially happened today. Binance listed Ondo and virtuals. Yep. And they did not list Plume. So thoughts on that? Virtuals over Plume. What do you guys think? Obviously, Ondo we felt like was going to be a shoo-in. But any thoughts on that listing?
I think Plume is probably better positioned over the next 12 months. I think we already had a very, very large AI spike. We saw a little bit of a pullback, so maybe there's going to be some, nice spikes in advance. But I don't think we've gotten the giga rally for RWAs that is probably going to be happening within the next 12 months. So I'm going Plume.
You mean choosing over the two?
No, just just my thoughts on the two different
Like they
listings.
should
If I
have
had
listed Plume instead of Virtuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, I'm definitely on that side, especially as a Plume holder. But
Virtuals is also a competitor
to Plume.
To Binance as far as like listing. So argument to why would they want to list it?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at it maybe as just they want to diversify. Plume is another RWA tokenization play, so it's kind of like, well, maybe we should focus on both crowds because they want to access more retail and all they care about is transaction fees. So
volume,
volume, and I'm sure Virtuals outpaces Plume by a mile with that. But it's good to see Ondo get listed there. I mean, we've been expecting this for a very, very long time. We've heard the rumors for a very long time. Of course, it's not going to have a dramatic price movement. I mean, it's up 10% today. It's one of the leaders today. But
it has peeled back a little bit.
And they are on fire right now. I don't know if you've been watching their team. They've been going on pretty much every major news outlet and everything, focusing on stablecoin adoption with their new tokenization marketplace. So we're excited for that platform, and I think they got some big things coming up as well. And that's going to be really cool to see. And then Plume, I'm sure, won't be too far behind, to be honest.
All right. Well, let's actually look at Bitcoin because we did see some pretty dramatic price action in the immediate short term before the show. Bitcoin took a little bit of a dip, fallen, I would say fairly significantly, fallen about $2,000 in less than an hour. But right now we are seeing a little bit of strength as Bitcoin tries to reclaim some of the gains here. If we look at the rest of the market, hit refresh because we want that fresh data. And I hit refresh as you hit the like button. Bitcoin is up 0.4%. ETH is down 1.4%. Solana with a really nice pump here, 4.7%. Cardano flat as a pancake, flat as a shovel butt there. And we have Avalanche with a 5% pump and Chainlink with a 0.5. If we're looking at the biggest gainer, though, stinks. Fartcoin up 23%.
Wow.
100% in the last week is wild to see.
One's nuts. Caspa with a nice pump. Render. So we're seeing a lot of Solana tokens with a nice little movement. And Ondo's one of the biggest gainers. So you don't always see a gain with the Binance listing. Sometimes you see dumps. But with this, in this case, it did, I would say, largely bullish.
Well, that curve thing I was posting last night when this bill was signed into law. Obviously, we've known this is coming for a while. This DeFi broker law or changing of the rules here. We're going to talk about it a little bit later today. That's what the title's about. Trump signs the first ever crypto law into or crypto bill into law. And it's very, very impactful for DeFi as a whole. You guys know I've been a big advocate for DeFi these last, several months. Aave, Curve, Morpho, even Chainlink in some ways kind of ties into DeFi and RWAs. But that law has a big impact in all of those things and how well they're going to perform into the future. So nice to see Curve getting that pump. Obviously, a lot of those, almost all altcoins have been beaten down bad through this whole battle that we've been going through here recently with Bitcoin pulling back and the tariffs and trade wars and all that. But Curve on its way up. Aave, I think, is going to perform very well. And you guys also know we like Aerodrome and Morpho, in addition. So nice to see that pump.
Yeah, no, speaking of pump, we also see some dumps here. Dex is down 5%, Story down about 5%, EOS and HBAR also down about 3% here. Tia and Atom are falling. And then we see some ETH derivatives and Crow with a little bit of a dump right there. So we're seeing some pain out there, but the most amount of pain is the US dollar, 3-year lows for the DXY. I wanted to kind of back up because DXY, we kind of know what it means. It's like dollar relative to some things here. Well, technically, it is weighted against this basket right here. So it is the euro, the yen, the sterling, the dollar, the krona, and the franc. And you can see the different weights here. So this is how the dollar goes against this basket. Euro has by far the largest weight with the 57% of the basket, followed by the yen. Chinese yuan, not on this list. Russian ruble, not on this list. India's currency, we recall India's
Rupee?
Rial?
That was, I don't know. You
I know
say
what you're
Russia?
talking
You say Russia or India?
Oh,
India.
It's the maybe.
Well, either way, you
no.
don't see India, so you don't see a lot of the largest
That's
economies
gonna bug
on
me
here.
if I don't, because now it's at the tip of my head. Rupee.
Rupee, I was right.
Yep,
yeah.
yep. And also surprisingly, I mean, it does have the euro, but it, also has Swiss francs, Swedish krona, but it does have Europeans' largest economy, which is Germany. So this is what the DXY is, if you're wondering that. So when we see the dollar index falling, it is falling relative to that basket. Now the dollar is weakening. It just hit 100
Well-
on the dollar index for the first time since July 2023. A weak dollar is bullish for risk-on assets like stocks and crypto. Guys, why is a weak dollar good for risky assets?
Because it means people don't want to hold the dollar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin is going to be benefiting directly from this. And Max Long has a really good post here, just a couple sentences. A weakening dollar was a major tailwind for the 2017 and 2020 bull runs. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. As the strength fades in the dollar, Bitcoin could be gearing up for another potential breakout. Back in June 2020, when the DXY dipped under 100, Bitcoin kicked off a major rally, climbing from $9,000 to $57,000 over the next 9 months. Similar move, April 2017, Bitcoin went from $1,000 to $17,000 in just 8 months after the dollar index broke below 100. Are we getting a new Bitcoin all-time high by Q4? Yes or no? New all-time high by Q4. What do we think?
Q4 of this year, absolutely.
I like absolutely. I would say yes. I'm leaning hard yes. Josh, how do you feel about new all-time high by the end of September?
I mean, I'm definitely not going to say 100% certain.
I won 110%.
I think that's I mean, look, I think right now, I think we're going to definitely be a lot higher than we are today. And I don't know if that's new all-time highs or if that means we're stuck at a range between 95K and 110K at September, or if we do break past. I would love to break past that. We got the confirmation while I was gone yesterday. I wasn't able to cover it, unfortunately, but was the CPI reading that I was waiting for and the PPI. Both came out incredibly bullish, way better than expected on the markets. And so that gave us that April 10th deadline that I was telling you guys. April 10th, like we have to hit a new bottom of these markets, or else we need like some crazy black swan event nobody's seeing coming to really bring us back down to those levels. So, what I'm looking for right now is the forward progression of these markets, and the next big pivot is going to be from the Feds. So once they really announce the end of quantitative tightening, they start cutting interest rates. That's only going to result in a bigger factor of more money being dumped back into riskier assets. And so that could be as early as May. In my opinion, that is going to take place in June. And so if markets start pricing that in, yeah, I think it's definitely possible here, especially as that dollar weakens here with the whole trade wars that is taking place right now. But what's interesting is the bond market. And this is what's giving me a little bit more confidence that the Feds are going to kind of be forced their hand. We're back up to 4.56% here. So our bonds, again, as the dollar drops in value, we're going to raise that value to try to incentivize more people to run into that safe haven as an asset class. And this is pretty much being dumped because I would imagine China is offloading their U.S. treasuries. They held about $750 billion in debt. There's no reason for them to keep dumping because the reason why they're dumping is because they're trying to support their yuan, which is crashing. So they have to sell to, try to balance out that pullback there. But when you're looking at the long term from here, again, this is going to tell me that the Feds are very much inclined by June to now cut those interest rates. And so can we be at all-time highs in September? Sure. Am I going to say that that's an absolute? I'd be cautious, but I'd ultimately say I do believe we'll be way higher in September than we are today.
Yeah, when technically is the end of summer? I think we'll be above all-time highs this summer.
Which I would love to see that. I would love to see. I think we definitely need to see a lot of pillars fall into place for the all-times to take place.
In the summer 2025, June 20th, then it lasts until September 22nd.
Do you think like July? Are you thinking like July?
No, June is the start, and then September.
Now,
So
for like 2 years, I've been saying 9/27/25 is going to be the top. 9/27. I haven't said it in a few months. I'll reiterate my prediction here. I don't know. No one knows, obviously, like, well, this is the day Bitcoin will top out in a 4-year cycle. I'm still throwing it out. 9/27.
That's the
Well, traditionally, that if you're going by traditional 4-year high having cycle theory, that should be when the entire market tops out. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens, how things play out this summer, what the prices are at those levels. But a lot of people out there, and I'm starting to fall into this camp somewhat as well, to think we're gonna see a somewhat extended cycle since we've remained in a extended accumulation phase. A lot of people would argue what we've been going through these last several months has been a Wyckoff accumulation, has been some of the richest, most powerful people in the world accumulating as much Bitcoin as they can. You can see the whales buying Bitcoin. You can see the whales buying ETH. You can see retail getting shaken out through all this turmoil. And there is a school of thought that says we continue this run into 2026 but a lot of it depends on what happens between now and then. So traditionally, September, October, even pushing late October into early November could potentially be the top of altcoin season. I think we're going to see things pump hard during the summer, but that would mean we'd have to be, way above where we are for all-time highs by the end of the summer. Like all-time highs is only 110. I'm thinking 200K plus Bitcoin is coming. Can we get there by October, November? We absolutely can. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. Like DZ said, nobody knows 100% where things are going to be in the future. We can all just speculate. That's why we're here. We're speculators, and you can speculate on Bitcoin. You can speculate on altcoins, but we do know Bitcoin is here to stay. The entire world is moving towards a global trade system. I was, supposedly. I think it was yesterday or the day before, China and Russia are actually settling some global trade in Bitcoin, which is huge. Seeing these fiat currencies collapse is why we're all here. Bitcoin's here to stay. Everybody does know that for sure. How high the price will go and when, that's why we come on the show every day and talk about it, because nobody really knows.
Yep. That's right. And speaking, I just want to kind of double click on some of this. Basically comparing Trump's first term to Trump's second term when it comes to the dollar index. It fell to its lowest level in 3 years, like we were saying earlier, while Bitcoin remains steady. And so this index has dropped to levels seen at the same point during Trump's first term. Market participants continue to move away from U.S. assets, causing the dollar to weaken amid the trade tensions with China. China also has increased tariffs on U.S. goods to a cumulative 125%. But the DXY index is mirroring the pattern seen during Donald Trump's first term. So I pulled it up here, and you can see this is the first month of January 2017. This is when Trump begins his term. Dollar index is literally right at the levels we're at right now. Dollar index then fell. This was January 2017. This is December 2017. Perfect time to hold Bitcoin and then sell Bitcoin. And then you can see a nice little run up here. March 2020, Bitcoin was like $3,000. And then all the way down here, this is going to be January 2021. And then Bitcoin, of course, would largely top out around this range, and then put in a second all-time high right here in November 21. So you can see as the dollar index is low, that is great for Bitcoin's local peaks, local bottoms. And this is where we're at right now. So a lot of people suggesting, oh yeah, we got a lot more collapse to go when it comes to the DXY. Now, I wanted to look at Bitcoin's price action. TJ, do you remember the trade we opened yesterday?
Yeah. The long
50x. What if I kept that open? Because I'm a madman. All right, looking at the trade, we still have the 50x open. I've closed about half of it. I peeled off a $50 bill. Nothing crazy. But yeah, we're literally still in the 51x long.
Nice.
We're up 200%, tripled our entry point there. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to LBank. And we got a link down below. If you want to trade in, just click the link below and you can capture $13,000 in bonuses that they're giving out.
Hell yeah.
Love it. Now, global money also supplying. TJ, you're looking at this here. Global money supply is exploding. Bitcoin will soon follow. This is I don't know if it's 108, 110 day offset, but this is about a 3.5 month offset. And so money supply is exploding. Typically, Bitcoin follows. It just takes a few months. And if this trend continues, we are set up for a very, very bullish summer for Bitcoin. Do we have any price predictions here? Because this has given us a local top about 130K. How do we feel about 130K over the next few months?
Absolutely possible.
50% greater or lower odds?
Over how many months did you say? 3 months? Like at summertime?
Yeah, roughly. Well, this is probably peak in January, so this is about 4 months. So yeah, maybe about 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months. Yeah, I think absolutely. I'd give it a 65-70% chance we're at about 130 in the next few months, because you guys have heard me say it on the show plenty of times. My call for Bitcoin this cycle in 2025 was 200K, give or take 20 either direction. So that absolutely topped out at 220. Could be 180. Nothing has shaken me off of those targets. There's a lot. I mean, we covered yesterday, Charles Hoskinson saying 250K by the end of this year. I mean, a lot of people are calling for higher numbers than I am. Now, I know I'm probably, of the three of us here, probably the most bullish. I know, and I know that, and you guys should take that into account with all of this stuff too. I'm a permabull. I'm there's really nothing you can say that makes me not bullish on Bitcoin over the long term. Now, over the short term, a lot of things can happen, but yeah, I think I would put very high odds that we're 130 to 140K, this summer, and a big part of it is due to what that chart you were just showing, the money supply. That central banks are printing all over the world. The Fed hasn't started printing yet.
This could continue to spike here.
Exactly.
We're seeing, the money printers going. Brrr. They might just keep going brrr for a long, long time. So we could see easily another 6 months of pre-parabolic action on this yellow line.
And it will. Like, that's the one thing that we can guarantee is that governments will always print money, because that has proven out over time throughout history. They never stop. They can't really stop, because if they stop, the whole thing crashes. It's just a big Ponzi. So you can always count on governments to print more money, and that's why Bitcoin will always go up in value over time. So,
well, who can also count on the government, Josh, DJ?
Who's that?
Legal immigrants.
Wow.
Only if they have a scam social security number. So DeFi can count on the government. We just had something historic happen, everybody. Donald Trump is the first U.S. president to ever sign a crypto law. This is the first time it has ever happened. So he formally eliminated a Biden-era IRS rule that would have required decentralized finance platforms to collect and report same taxpayer information as traditional brokers. Let me say this in normal terms. This would require Uniswap to ask for your social security number. Does that sound a little ridiculous to you folks?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So they literally wanted Uniswap to collect your social security number, or they wouldn't let you have any kind of trade. Jupiter, same thing. MinSwap, same thing. So they're literally asking for they want your birth date. They want your address. They want all the things to identify you. Probably want your driver's license number. The bill, in fact, is not just the first crypto-related bill made by law by Trump. This is the first crypto-related bill signed by any U.S. president. Now, Representative Mike Carey, two first names there, the DeFi broker rule needlessly hindered Americans' innovation, infringed on the privacy of everyday Americans, and was set to overwhelm the IRS with the overflow of new filings that it doesn't have the infrastructure to handle during tax season. Now, this had considerable bipartisan support last month, both the House and the Senate. A remarkable resort that underscores the willingness of many Democrats to finally rebuke the policies of Biden. DeFi protocols, which run on automated code, were on their face incapable of complying with these tax reporting requirements. It's just code on the blockchain. You're just trading on there. They don't really have the infrastructure to collect your social security number, store your social security number, and then secure your number so it doesn't get stolen by hackers. Nonetheless, in the waning hours of Biden's lame duck presidency, this article saying the IRS instituted the rule anyways. Why did they institute the rule? Do you guys, it's just maybe a lack of understanding, so I guess ignorance, or was there something more sinister going on, you think?
Well,
Control.
it's a control thing. It was the last administration was very much anti-crypto. This wasn't the only thing. You hear us talk about Operation Choke Point 2.0 on this channel a lot. This kind of fits into that. And the big thing that I think matters about getting rid of this rule is what it did is it made it basically illegal for any traditional finance, anything that was already in the green as far as regulation and government went. It made it impossible for them to interact with these protocols because it put them in a gray area from a compliance standpoint. So banks and traditional investment vehicles and basically TradFi had no way to interact not only with Uniswap but also with Curve, also with Aave, because this kind of applied across the board. It was a poorly written rule, I think it was, or law. I think it was due to a lack of understanding. You could argue potentially, DZ, to your question, was it somewhat nefarious to restrict some of this? I think a lot of people do have that feeling. Or it could have just been a huge misunderstanding of the space in general. There's some other stuff like that as it applies to Bitcoin miners and how they have to do tax reporting and IRS reporting. So getting rid of these bad laws is definitely step one in clearing the path for this industry to grow and for DeFi to really come in. And basically what we want is for traditional finance and decentralized finance to actually be able to interact in a happy way that is within compliance. And what you don't want, like say the Fidelities and the BlackRocks and the Morgan Stanleys and the Charles Schwabs, none of those giant investment houses, the Vanguards, would be able to participate in DeFi. Now they're clearing the path for that to happen, and you're going to start to see them offering yields. And for the first time in a very, very long time, there's some new innovation within finance that's actually competitive, and it's not just a new derivative of something. It's not just a new rehypothecation of a different asset. It's actually a tech innovation that's able to grow. And you guys, that's why I'm so bullish on DeFi. Is DeFi is the killer app that's been on Ethereum for a very, very long time. And it's going to start really seeing its full potential hit over these next several years. And not only from a regulatory standpoint, but also from a fundamental standpoint. And speaking of that, we forgot to mention we do have a special guest coming on later in the show towards the end. A lot of us, and I'm curious to know this. I know we got a lot of XRP holders and HBAR and a lot of other altcoins, but let us know in the chat. I just type ETH if you hold any ETH. If you're an Ethereum holder whatsoever, I know that's what got a lot of people into this. It was the first big smart contract platform that really enables DeFi. You know, most DeFi does live on Ethereum still to this day. Most stable coins still lives on Ethereum. So yeah, here they come in. They're rolling in a lot of ETH holders here. Well, none of us would be here without the special guest that we're bringing on later today. It's actually Vitalic Buterin's mom. So shout out to the ladies in the chat. I know we've got a lot of women out here saying we need to have more female guests. So we're going to have Vitalic Buterin's mom joining us. She actually started Crypto Chicks, which is a group that supports women in blockchain as well as an ETH layer 2. So that's coming a little bit later. But yeah, ETH and DeFi, a lot of people saying, it's dead. Like you heard yesterday, we had the founder of MakerDAO on here. Ethereum's far from dead. DeFi lives on Ethereum. Sure, there could be competitors in the future, but there's really not a clear.
You want to see Donald Trump's face when you mention Crypto Chicks?
Sure. Oh, okay. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
I think the number one characteristic he looks for is just being smart. I don't,
Merit.
Yeah, merit based. Such a wild concept. Now, crypto likely to rebound as Trump tariffs may bring down inflation. Inflation break-evens head south amid the Trump tariff war, despite fears of stagflation. We've talked about stagflation. I just kind of want to double click on it. Stagflation is a period of high inflation, but a stagnant economy. And so you might have, some McDonald's stock or Coca-Cola stock, and it's soaring. And your house value, it's also soaring. But when you go to McDonald's, the price of the cheeseburger soars even more than those. And then the economy basically is just a fugazi pump that's not really real. It's the economy not showing any strength. So it looks like despite fears of this stagflation, the tariffs may lead to lower inflation in the long term, potentially allowing the Fed to cut rates. And there's just some historical precedent I kind of want to show here. So according to observers, the impact of tariffs, viewed as a one-time cost adjustment, relies on the reaction of other macro variables and tends to be disinflationary in the long run. Well, that sounds crazy. So when producers pass the tariff increase on to consumers, inflation levels rise. Well, that sounds right. However, there is no corresponding increase in income. Consumers are often compelled to reduce their consumption. This reduction can lead to an inventory buildup, and then that inventory buildup ultimately contributes to a decline in the price of these goods. Since the days of Smoot-Hawley, tariffs have this is about 100 years ago. Tariffs have never been inflationary. Rather, they are deflationary. So just another counter narrative that you're hearing, tariffs are inflationary. Tariffs are inflationary. The data is suggesting, at least according to this article, data suggests in the short term, yes, but in the long term, every single time, it has been disinflationary, which is going to be great for the Fed. They'll cut rates, which will then boost your altcoins, which is all what we want. This is what we need. This is what we're desiring. And that's what you're hitting the like button for out there, folks. So it could be some good news. And that was me moving my cup.
I was
now,
like, dang.
Gold. Yeah, it's like I had dairy. Gold going nuts. Have you guys seen the gold prices?
Yeah,
look at that.
All-time
Gold
highs.
It's 32.40 today at one point. 32.40.
Kobayashi is saying, if you can't tell, something is broken. Josh, what is broken here?
The economy. That's what he's referring to here. Nobody can kind of predict what's happening because they don't know what's going on with the negotiations behind the scenes. They don't know what's going to happen between China and the U.S. China came out today with more tariffs on the United States, which ironically pumped the price of Bitcoin. So everybody's kind of just, I don't know if they're necessarily panicking, but that letter specifically, they have been just talking about how everything is all over the place. And when gold is running, it just tends to mean people believe that we're more inclined to either A, start entering a recession, or there's economic uncertainty ahead. So they move to a safe haven asset.
Now, there's rumors that a lot of the gold spikes we're seeing is China actively dumping treasuries and buying spot gold and then shoring it up behind the Great Wall.
Yeah, even if they're not buying gold, dumping U.S. treasuries also could signal that because they could be buying their own dollar to try to support that value, right? There's a bunch of different things they could be purchasing as well. It just goes to show that overall markets, institutions, Wall Street, there is a interest in a safe haven asset right now, and that just tells you that if gold is pumping, guys, risk on assets usually going to be dropping, and you could see that on the SPX here. So as gold hits all-time highs, the SPX is, I mean, at least today, pretty much at break even here. So this is probably going to happen, and this is where like maybe we get a double bottom here on the SPX, but I don't even know if we see that far of a drawback from here, or Bitcoin going back to 77K. It's more or less markets are still uncertain despite the tariff conversations, because even though Donald Trump announced the pause for 90 days, that doesn't mean that the tariffs aren't, one, still going to be implemented. Two, the 10% is still there. I think there's still key areas that have 25% tariffs on top of them as well. The negotiations need to roll out. So this could take days, it could take hours, it could take weeks. And for that, it's creating enough uncertainty that's bringing up, of course, gold, and you're seeing things like the DXY drop.
All right, I pulled up a DXY priced in gold. I was just kind of curious. What's the dollar? What's the basket of currencies relative to gold? A lot more bearish. So gold has just been crushing the DXY. So crushing the dollar, but also crushing the DXY. All-time highs against the dollar. Looks like all-time highs against the DXY as well. So
well, and that's why hard assets they almost always do that over time. Like I said, you can always count on the government to print more money. It's very much like looking at the Bitcoin chart against the dollar versus Bitcoin. And speaking of that, we do even have Powell coming out and making statements. The Fed, well, I don't know if Powell said this, but the Fed says they have the tools to provide more liquidity, which that means print money. Because that's the number one concern people are seeing right now, especially with the overnight funding rates. It's not just treasuries going up. There's no money to buy. Liquidity is drying up. So what do you got?
I was actually trying to pull up that gold silver ratio. I accidentally had the DXY trading view. So I've now typed in, we got the gold silver ratio. Someone said, yeah, the silver ratio is now 100 to 1. I was like, that sounds pretty crazy. Yeah, the gold silver ratio is now just hit 1. So you can get 100 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. Historically, that has been a great time to get gold. We're looking at weekly charts here. So that spike,
silver.
That's 1991.
Right.
Yeah, you meant silver.
Silver.
Yeah. I may have said that backwards.
Yeah, I think Nataliya just said that as well with silver, like going heavy on. No, that was Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay. Now, silver, there's a lot more silver than there is on Earth. Now, the historical ratio, I want to say, is like 15 to 1. Like when it comes to the Earth's crust, it's closer. Maybe, someone in the chat can correct me on that. But yeah, seeing 100 to 1 ratio, I almost want to go to the pawn shop and get some silver coins this weekend.
Yeah.
Should I just buy
crypto? I mean,
crypto?
for me, I'm like on edge of selling gold, dude. It's because like the last time I bought it, I think it was like $1,300 when we were at Costco, or $1,600. And so it's like 2xing gold's insane to me. Like even just thinking about that for a second. So if you guys are going to play the precious metals market, I would just remind you that similar to how psychological factors play into Bitcoin and your traditional equities markets, gold is at an all-time high, right? So the precious metals market are at all-time highs, and therefore you're coming into the top of all-time highs. Now I think gold, no matter what, silver, no matter what, long term, those are great stores of value.
Silver, you're not coming in all-time highs.
But wait, what's that?
Silver's not all-time high.
Silver, you're not. But it's also, this is a weird market. But again, I wanted to zoom out here on the weekly here for gold. Gold they have bear markets too. They have bear markets too. So if you're coming into gold right now, this is like crazy. This is like people saying buy Bitcoin at 110K. It's like, look, yeah, it could keep going up here, but if the Feds pivot, if the tariffs are negotiated and anything starts lifting more and that ease starts to come back into the market, you're going to see gold start filtering out. Like gold's in a parabolic rally right now. I wouldn't be picking this up until it's back into a normal position. And actually it was $1,300 because we bought, this was, I think that would have been 2020, 2017, 2016. So yeah, about it's 2020. So $1,600, $1,500, $1,600 an ounce.
Cut from Josh's gold screen to my silver screen, if you can. Look at that. So you can see those spikes. That spike 1980. That was the first manipulation. It was at not the Lehman. There's a pair of brothers, not Lehman Brothers, but a pair of
Silver's
brothers.
more manipulated, right?
Yeah, silver is manipulated with paper silver. There's a lot more paper silver trading than there is actual bullion silver or the metals trading. And some say the fake silver that's created on paper has been used to historically suppress the price relative to gold.
Yeah.
And that's according to the whims of the bankers who hoard a lot of gold.
The Hunt brothers.
Yeah. It's I wanted to just I'm reminding everybody there that just like gold is has its cycles, or that Bitcoin has its cycles, so does gold. So just don't emotionally FOMO. I just think you're FOMOing in the Bitcoin at the top. Like, it is at 20. Look at this chart. You're buying at the exact top of the chart. And when gold goes into bear markets, mind you guys, like this is 2011 to 2020, for 10 years. Gold was essentially in a bearish trend or in a bear market, ended up creating a massive cup and handle. But it's kind of this equity shift. So if we start getting a manufacturer boom, or inflation starts dropping massively like it is, or real wages start to rise and these negotiations start to become positive, I would just be cautious entering that. Honestly, I'd just be sidelined right now. If you haven't made any plays in the last 2 months, like, I'd be DCAing into equities. But if you're looking at gold and stuff, I'm sidelined. I'm sidelined right now.
Yeah, but you got to realize you got to sideline into something, right? And so, like, what you'd rather hold the dollar?
No, that's why I said equities. I said like VU, VIM, like your ETF, even like Bitcoin, blue chips. You just DCA. You just DCA slowly and just take advantage of, because this could be 2 months. It could be another 6 months. Like, we don't know what necessarily the sideways action is going to be in this market or the downside effect to this. But like FOMO, moving out of equities, like you saw, this is crazy to me. Last week we saw so many creators, so many people saying, sell your 401ks, sell all of your crypto. We're entering a recession. I saw so many creators fold at 75K. And like, they're acting like this week that they did not just freak out and panic and fearmonger their entire audience to sell last week. And so, like, watching that happen for those people to start chasing gold, start chasing other, precious metals markets, which is I'm watching these people do this actively. It's like you're going from selling the bottom of the market to buying into a top of a market. And I think that emotional process is going to wreck way more investors than the investors that just simply go, okay, what is at a discounted price right now? What is down 20%, 30%, in some cases 50%? I'm talking blue chips. Why wouldn't you be just DCAing into those rather than FOMOing and running into another emotional trade? It's astounding to me. We're watching this. Like, look at Jim Cramer. Inverse Cramer is probably one of the most real things we've ever seen in our lives. Black Monday, recession, 20% dip, pumps massively. People are just getting wrecked right now.
Now, Antonio bringing up a good point. Adjust for inflation. Gold still far away from its previous all-time high. So you can look at that two ways. It's a terrible store of value, or there's a lot more room for gold to run. And then that would in turn help out Bitcoin. That would in turn help out silver. And so you can look at that in a very bullish way. But speaking of bullish way, someone isn't bullish. Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman, one of the better macro investors out there.
Well, he's been all over the board lately.
Yeah, he is. He's he had a little. They're calling it the tariff tantrum rant.
Yeah.
So he has these little rants, and he just had another one. It's going a little viral, especially like in the VC circles. But someone tracked the Ackman rants, and the Ackman rants are actually really good buying opportunities. So Bill Ackman rant signals as the bottom indicator could be a great time to buy. Historically, buying an Ackman rant is a good time to start loading up, but it's also a good time to load up when the Bollinger Bands start gearing up. And so the Bollinger Bands are kind of like a spring. It's when the price action squeezes and squeezes, just goes flat. The longer it goes flat, the more it's like you're squeezing a spring, and eventually it's going to pop out. It's going to hit somebody in the eye. Well, it looks like Bitcoin's price might hit someone in the eye. The creator says Bitcoin, I call it Bitcoin, forming a classic floor near 80K. It's the familiar bottom behavior at current prices, according to one of the best known leading indicators. Analyzing, that's the important part. This is a leading indicator. There's not really no perfect leading indicator, but I would say this is one of the better leading indicators. Analyzing weekly timeframes drew attention to one of his proprietary indicators, percentage B. This offers further clues about the trend reversal. Amongst its insights, he goes into the math. It's around 20 days simple. None of that's really important. What's important is it's repeating the previous formation, which is the W bottom formation. And it's not the RSI part right here. It's this part right here. You see the RSI. I'm sorry, you see a little bit of a W, and it looks like one part of the W, the middle part of the W, The bottom part of the second half, and then now is when things could potentially take off in a really, really bullish way. And he's saying, just be a little careful. NASDAQ could fall another 10%. So we could be seeing a little bit more pain before we see the gains, but it looks like the gains are going to be around there. Now we're going to talk about Cardano versus Ethereum. How do you feel? I say that to you, TJ. What was first? Cardano versus Ethereum. You got someone, come back into your life. Hey, I'm looking at crypto. Cardano versus Ethereum. What do you say?
As far as a purchase?
Yes.
That's a tough one right now because I feel like Ethereum's very oversold, in my opinion. I think it's been beaten down, and the sentiment's actually pretty close to an all-time low. Especially everybody talking about, you could buy it at the same price as 2018. Cardano actually performing extremely well over the last several months comparatively. Like, it pumped on the digital asset news, and it's kind of held up better than a lot of
Trump
different
election.
altcoins.
It had one of the largest pumps.
And so it's been holding up really well. I still think they both have a lot of upside. I would probably they're both pretty decentralized. They both fit the cypherpunk vision very well.
All right, chat. Your neighbor says I'm putting $100 in a coin. Cardano versus ETH. Type in ADA. Type in ETH.
Let us know
below.
Josh, if you had to buy $1,000 of one, which one is it, ADA or ETH?
Ethereum. I mean, I'd definitely be picking up Ethereum, but that just, if you're looking at blue chip exposure, and apparently to MakerDAO you guys had on yesterday, it's better than Bitcoin. So
that was the security.
I was
no. He said no. He didn't say it's better. Let's be.
I know he said the security. He said the security.
Yeah, and he knew it was a spicy take too.
Dude, that was a hot take. I was like, whoa. But anyways, I'd still buy because I still agree to a lot of the factors that went into that conversation, which is
Cardano.
It's incredibly
going ADA.
Like, if I'm just putting the two on, like if I'm putting it on a table, like, and I have to choose one, and I'm looking at what's more
like an NBA player choosing the draft.
Yeah,
you got the hats.
It's like
Portnoy
Michael
style.
Jordan and like LeBron James. Like, Michael Jordan ended the NBA at all-time highs, most watch time. Best player ever.
Let's not start comparing LeBron to Jordan.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this here.
Oh, God.
Ethereum's and Michael Jordan. Cardano, there you go.
Jordan and Mamba.
There's your Cardano. We'll see what chat thinks of it.
No, but it's good. It's funny. You're Ethereum, DZ's Cardano. I'm both.
It's
that's why we're all here.
I
we
would
balance each
never.
other out.
There's not a situation I ever been put in where if someone was like, if I got to choose between two, I want it dollar cost average into both. So it's also a impossible question.
They're saying, is it reasonable to assume they are pumping gold to sell it for a suppressed Bitcoin price? Potentially, but
no.
I wouldn't think. I think they have enough capital. They don't need to do that.
I'm about as bullish as you could be on Bitcoin. David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine, great guy, great conference. We're going to be at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas in May. So hopefully we'll see you guys out there. I love everything they do. He tweeted something today that was like, why don't we just sell all, like if they're selling stuff to buy gold, we should just dump all of our gold to buy Bitcoin and do the ultimate reset. And I was like, even that's a little too bullish for me. I don't think the United States should dump all
Fort
of their
Knox is
gold.
empty, but
That
it's
won't
because we
happen.
sold everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That won't happen.
People are more interested versus ADA versus ETH with Jordan versus
I knew
LeBron
that
and
was
Kobe.
I knew that was going to be a hot
it's
thing.
Jordan, then Kobe, then LeBron.
Look,
and it comes to the bedroom, Wilt Chamberlain.
No, look, you can't take anything away from LeBron's achievements and stuff that he's done.
Blocking,
but
you go down 10 points for Gryffindor.
Exactly. Yeah. The way he's put up some crazy numbers. He's a crazy athlete, but it's nothing like the dominance that Jordan had in his time, and as well as the clutch. Jordan won championships. LeBron did eventually because he got to so many of them, but he choked a lot early in his career. So Jordan stepped away for a while. If he had stayed and had the type of long career, like he would be untouchable. Gretzky or Ovi,
Look,
they're both great. Gretzky, though, you can't touch all the assist numbers.
Who's the comedian that said it right? It was you wear Jordans, you don't wear LeBrons.
Boom. There you go.
All right.
There you go.
But my hairline's more LeBron than Jordan. I'm holding on like LeBron is. All right, let's all right. Well, looking at the facts here when it comes to Cardano is up 268% against Ethereum since June 2024. I was like, is this even true? I had to go into the charts, look myself. Yeah, sure enough. This is the short-term pump. This is November, October, and you can see the low right there for July. So Cardano looks great against ETH. till you zoom out and you're like, okay, well, ETH was doing fantastic. This is 2021. ETH is definitely still up relative to these ranges here. But to me, I'm seeing a lot of strength in this. And this is the 3-day. If we go to the weekly, I think we can spend a lot more time in the oversold territory, just a lot of strength in the RSI. So I'm leaning a little bit bullish towards Cardano when I'm looking at this chart, but I'm just a perma bull when it comes to ADA. I had a couple ADA meetings yesterday. ADA DeFi is about to explode. The stablecoin ecosystem is about to start running up. I think, we talked about DeFi protocols. MinSwap is the Uniswap of Cardano. They got a lot of big things growing, so might have to try to cover them in the future. So a lot of big things happening on Cardano. But ETH, we got a mega rally maybe in store for ETH here. And I might have to jump to it here. I should have had it right next to it. Ether ETF staking could come as soon as May. This will definitely give ETH a lot of power, a lot of juice. So the ETH ETFs in the US may be able to start a staking portion of the tokens as soon as May. And this is according to James Seifert. He has a couple different predictions here. It's possible they could be approved next month in May. The final deadline is in October. Potential intermediate deadlines are going to be late May and late August. So late May, late August, potentially end of October. ETH ETF staking might get kicked on. We've kind of described it before. The way I would describe it, this is going to give Wall Street a dividend on a crypto ETF. And I think Wall Street's going to have a much larger increased appetite for ETH products. This is very bullish for ETH.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to, and again, this is a regulatory thing that's been holding them back for a long time. I think once this gets unlocked, you'll see why so many whales were accumulating ETH at these levels. And somebody earlier said ETH fees, but I don't know if they've been using ETH recently. Fees are actually not bad on Ethereum recently. A lot of the stuff that they've done is working well. And DeFi has never been set for another, never been as set as it is right now.
Yeah, everything's being tokenized on it. BlackRock's got the ETF. You got the staking coming into rewards. And then again, I'm telling you guys from like a policy level, it's Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then there's a very micro few that talk about other assets. So no matter what, if politicians are talking about that, what are their donors talking about? What are their lobbies talking about? It's Bitcoin and then Ethereum. And Bitcoin is obviously the clear winner out of those two in terms of the policy front. So, I think you're going to see any of this institutional interest when all these policies come into place, any of these DeFi things like we just saw with Donald Trump with the law that we've talked about a little bit today already, but ultimately open up those DeFi valves. Ethereum's just the go-to first competitor. So I think maybe people are too bullish on a 10K Ethereum, but if I'm looking at like the price of Ethereum today on what it can be in 3 to 4 years, like I'm still believing there's going to be an all-time high within that range for Ethereum itself. But that's not to discount other blockchains and smart contracts.
All right. Speaking of all-time high, we got the beautiful couple asking. Last cycle, people were calling for $12 ADA. Is $7 realistic? My target is, I've kind of had a few targets. I had a $5 to $6 target, and then I changed it after the election and seeing Charles Hoskinson being invited to the White House to a $6 to $8 target, but then seeing the weakness in Bitcoin kind of coming back down to a $5 to $7 target. And so, I think $7 is realistic. Realistic, I would say probable. It's slightly probable. I like it. $5 to me feels realistic. Does a $5 ADA seem realistic to you, Josh? That's a 10x almost
for
Cardano.
Yeah, next 12 months. You're gonna say no,
you
and that's
love
fine.
asking these price prediction questions.
Me in my heart.
No,
he does.
I'm gonna say is you should be optimistic.
Ondo's going to zero.
I'm at a position now where I gotta really be. I'm incredibly optimistic. But like what we're gonna be doing from a policy front and everything, I refuse. I don't believe it's smart to be like not to be pessimistic right now. I think optimism on this market, optimism on your policies, optimism on the U.S. markets opening up to Cardano, IOHK, Ripple, XRP, Solana, etc. I'm very excited for those systems. But a 5x, like we're talking now, trillions of dollars entering the space in the course of the next year. I would love to see it. I would say that what we should be focusing on, though, is the growth within these ecosystems, and I'm very bullish on that.
All right, well, Gary Austin, I'm selling a 490. I'm selling a 489. I got you. Speaking of ETH, a couple more things now. BlackRock is very bullish on the ETH ETFs having staking. So they're less perfect without staking. Is staking yield meaningful part of how you generate investment return in this space? That's Robbie Mitchnick. He's BlackRock's head of digital assets. And we reported on a rumor, I think 2 days ago, World Liberty Fi, they said, nope, we have not sold any Ethereum. They were refuting the Arkham data. This isn't the first time we've seen this. They've stored with their Coinbase Prime custody. That could go two different ways. It could be, maybe signaling a sell in the future, or just sell or signal long-term hold. And to me, this signaling long-term hold. So they have not sold their Ether. We were kind of joking. Was it Eric sold the bottom? His dad didn't tell him he was going to tweet something in 30. It looks like it didn't happen. They didn't sell the bottom. That would have been pretty bad. But speaking of selling, you got to be careful about your losses when you see some gains. This is the uncomfortable reality of crypto investing. If you draw down 10%, you got to pump 11% to break even. You draw down 50%, you got to pump 100% to break even. Look at 900%. And if you fall 97%, which is not out of the realm of possibility with meme coins, a lot of lower, market cap altcoins, you then have to pump 3,233% for you to end up gaining that. And I see the number 23. Didn't LeBron wear Michael Jordan's number?
Yep.
Shouldn't that count as something?
You mean like against him, right?
He's riding coattails, just like Cart. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's my impression of LeBron. That's a Trump tweet to my altcoin portfolio. Like, why'd you fall that much? Just Trump did all caps. It didn't mean it was that bad. Now we do have some potential sector. I don't know, Josh, if you think this is going to be bullish or not. Crypto gaming is having some mixed results in Q1. We have some of the Q1 data when it comes to investments here. So it's mixed data. The deals have jumped, but the investment totals are down. This is according to DApp Radar. And so they're seeing a greater number of deals while the amount of invested has significantly dipped. So Web3 projects raised $91 million in Q1. That is a 71% decrease from 2024 and about a 70% decrease from the same quarter a year ago. A factor is investors shifting towards RWAs and AI, and there's only so much money, and they're flowing into the other sectors. Is gaming dead in 2025?
Can we pull up that image right below it? I would like to see, just scroll down a little bit more right there. Boom. Yeah, so,
Q2,
gaming's definitely not dead. Like, everybody games. Like, gaming is not an industry that's going to leave us. The problem with what we saw over the last 4 years was all the hundreds of millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars went into sandboxes and Decentralands and metaverses and Web3 applications. And I think a lot of it was absorbed by just venture capitalists that thought they could not only invest into a project, make a massive return on investment, but somehow create a very, very addictive game. It is near impossible to already develop a game. It is next to impossible to develop a game that competes with the likes of a Call of Duty or a Fortnite or Marvel or whatever games you play, right? There's a status to that. So not only do these developers and these Web3 ecosystems have to develop a sustainable ecosystem that players want to be in, that they want to immerse themselves in, that they want to spend thousands of hours of their life playing, they also have to develop tokenomics that don't just take advantage of consumers and the people playing the game. They have to develop tokenomics that are sustainable, that aren't being constantly dumped by early on developers or VCs that got in and bought up, 80% of the supply. So I think that Web3 gaming is going to be huge. I don't know if it's 5 or 10 years. What I would like to see is, like, for example, if an Elder Scrolls Online, or like a better one for an example that more people know is a GTA 6, right? If a GTA 6 can actually establish a currency system that is sustainable, then I think you're going to see another wave of investments come back into the market. But the more that I look into Web3 gaming, I also realize, why launch a token? Why not just launch a GTA stablecoin or something, right? That's back to, an actual value that's just generating yield, and they can develop like liquidity pools and things based off those rewards. It's an interesting mechanic, and I don't have the answer to this, and I know for sure that the Web3 industry doesn't have the answer to this yet. And I know you guys watching know that you don't have we haven't seen the game come out of this that's been like, this is the example that, and exactly why crypto is going to mold into all games. That hasn't happened yet. So there's still a lot of groundwork that needs to be done, and I'm very optimistic on it. And that's why, I'd say, if you're in a bull run and you're going to invest in the Web3 gaming, it's a platform or sub portfolio or position your portfolio. I'm looking at the chains. What are they building on? Is it AVAX? Is it Ethereum? Is it SWI? Right? Because if you're going to be investing into those games, you just have to make sure. I think let me just put it this way: the people that are going to benefit the most are the people that play that game. Like if you're going to be just buying that token and hoping that game goes viral, I would not be betting on that. So I don't know if that helps like people get an understanding of where we're at with this industry, but we're in between developing really hard games with addictive immersive realities, as well as establishing strong, solidified tokenomics that don't benefit like insiders. And that is a very complex solution to solve or problem to solve.
Yeah, if you go to CoinGecko, you can type in gaming, check out the gaming sector here. There's a lot of, I would say a lot of these are strong projects, but a lot of them are probably projects that aren't going to capture their 2021 highs. One that stands out, the largest market cap is Immutable X, is kind of a layer 2 solution for Ethereum. The problem with IMX, there's a problem and there's a benefit. The problem is they keep dumping. The benefit is they're almost done. They're at 90%. Another benefit, this is one of the few crypto companies that has a decent portfolio of, what is they have? Is it trademark? No, with software.
Yeah, it's
patents,
IP.
right?
They've got some
Patents are
IP.
trademark.
Yeah, where Immutable actually is one that actually has somewhat of a moat when it comes to Web3 gaming. Almost any Web3 game uses their marketplace. So it's basically the infrastructure needed for any of these other games to make it work. I wanted there used to be two, they merged, and basically almost anything uses IMX. I do agree with what Josh was saying. I most likely think the Web3 game is really just going to be a major game that has some Web3 integrations, not necessarily a Web3 based project. But a lot of people like Super, a lot of people like Beam. I've mentioned I like Avalanche as my kind of hybrid because they've got off the grid, which I would say was a big success when it comes to Web3 games. But it's also a layer 1 chain that gives you a lot of other smart contract, programmability features. So you're not just all in on a Web3 play. But if you wanted to pick another one outside of the ones I just mentioned, I do think Immutable X is viable as it has a business model, it produces revenue, and it has somewhat of a moat. You guys have heard me talk about this. I think that as we move forward over the next 2 to 10 years in this space, a viable business model that earns revenue and has a protected moat, or anybody can't just come and knock you off. That is going to be more and more and more important as we continue through this part of the cycle. As the space matures, we're going to need real companies to emerge.
And I'll say on that topic too, like, no gamer wants to trade crypto. Usually, like, there's very few gamers that want to trade crypto that are involved with the industry as well. So to me, it's just like, why don't these games? They already have tokenized systems. A lot of these, like, you can buy in-game currencies, right?
Exactly.
It's just create a marketplace. Like, it doesn't make sense that these games haven't done this yet, and I don't know why they haven't. Just create an in-game marketplace where there could be buyers and sellers. Like, you could put up if you buy a skin, I could put up that skin in a week and I could try to sell it to somebody else. Like, they can create that own economy within that, and they just take like a 30% tax like Apple does on all your transactions on an app store application. Like, that is the easy route. But developing a whole tokenized structured system ecosystem that's dropping tokens as you farm, like, in, I don't know, it gets complicated very quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like there are 1,240. This might be a little bit older. I'm sure there's a lot more blockchain patents. That was just filed in that 1 year. And I was trying to investigate what their patent is. It's ZK Stark technology when it comes to NFTs with gaming. I'm sure there's a lot of expensive lawyers who've been paid a lot of money to argue the specific languages. So that's kind of IMX's moat, in addition to what TJ was saying. We do have some news with Dogecoin, and I want to ask a question to the chat here. And Josh, you too. If you invested, we can look at the headline here. If you bought $1,000 worth of Dogecoin on its first day, what do you think it's worth right now?
20 cents first day. No, you're looking at $1,000 on its first day.
Day one Doge. Type
$78
some
million.
numbers, Chat. I want to see.
I got it. I got it way
a
wrong.
random number. 78 million.
Yeah, when he asked me this
million.
morning, I was way off.
$6, a little bit more than
it was
that.
at like a quarter of a penny. I don't know what Doge's initial price was.
So it was 1/40th of 1 penny. So it was a quarter of a tenth of a penny. So you're not that far off with your math there. So looking at the number here as you get some of those in. So right now, it's probably a pretty good buying zone. I will say that this 15 cent, 13 cent range. So at the time Doge launched, 0.00026. Yeah, 26. So a meager figure. So 4 of those would be a tenth of a penny, and then times 10, that'd be 40 per every 1 penny. So if you As a result, you would have gotten 3.48 million Doge and the $608,000 today at press time. That was actually a lot lower than I would have guessed. I would have guessed millions.
I would have guessed like I was guessing like if you bought day one, because also didn't know it was a popular. Like,
so it got lower.
Yeah,
that's what happened. I haven't pulled up the price chart here. Let's actually look at Doge.
I know a lot of people. 300 million, way off. Yeah, I was not that's.
Yeah, I said multi-million too.
Yeah.
Hard to tell without log. So I have to put log on. Oh yeah, see it launched and yeah, it went significantly lower. Let's see. So if you buy here though, yeah, you're looking at 175,000% pump. So pretty good. I would say that is pretty good there. Folks.
Yeah, I was dramatically off. It's all good.
All right, well let's get to our guest that we've got waiting in the wings here. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, Vitalic's mom, her name is Nataliya, I believe is how you pronounce it, and she's going to be joining us. Like I said, none of us would be here. I think she's got. If you could turn that camera on, we will add you here shortly. As soon as I see that camera on, there it is, and I will unmute you, and there we go. All right, we're all here.
Hey guys.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing well. So I hear you have a few things, a few irons in the fire. Can you confirm or deny it's a competitor to Ethereum?
It's completely complementary to Ethereum.
Oh, okay. I thought you had a rivalry going with your son for a second.
No rivalry.
Yeah, so what are you building over there?
So guys, very quickly. So as we, and you guys touched on it as well, we can see that a world around us is rapidly changing, right? And a lot of it is driven by advancement in AI technology. We see a lot of opportunity in the sector in terms of developing and creating completely new use cases and applications. But and we believe that AI today has some issues that can be enhanced by merging this with Web3. It will add some trustworthiness. It will add some decentralization to it so that we're moving away from where we are today, where AI essentially concentrated in the hands of a couple of corporations who owns, the data that they got from you for free without paying you anything ever. And they hoard the data. They have the models. It's not transparent. It's black boxes. And we don't benefit anything from out of that. So we believe that the merge of Web3 and AI could be a great solution to address some of these problems. So our goal is really to enable Web3 powered AI ecosystem. But with that, there are some issues that we need to address first. And these issues are infrastructural. AI, as we all know, handles huge amounts of data. It needs speed, it needs throughputs. And blockchains today, in its present shape or form, are really not capable of handling it. Hence, what we are working on today is kind of a holistic approach to creating an ecosystem that is super AI friendly. We start with the infrastructure. We are launching a very super fast chain, we call it Hyperion. And it would allow for AI to basically thrive on a chain because it will be able to handle very significant throughputs because of some of innovation that we created, such as, parallel processing and some very cool optimizations that we're doing with opcode. And secondly, we are also solving an AI data alignment problem. And we are creating a new application platform. We actually think of it more as a space. It's called Laz AI, and that's the space actually where which helps us to address data alignment problem. Just to step a little bit back, what is a data alignment problem in AI is essentially an issue where we cannot guarantee that the values of the AI are aligning with the human values.
All right,
So,
I'm looking at Metis's post here, and it says they have a groundbreaking Metis SDK that usually stands for Standard Development Kit.
yeah,
This is going to get a lot of developers to try to code for SDK. What about the OP, the Unichain, the OP stack that seems to be so popular? Are there similarities here, or are you kind of competing for different SDKs?
I think what we're focusing on, as I mentioned, is creating a really AI-focused environment here. So our SDK, as you mentioned, developer-centric. It's a developer-centric tool, and our SDK enables a couple of things. First, it's decentralized sequencer nodes, and why it is important? It's important for decentralization, because we believe that none of the blockchain companies should actually know the keys to the wallet and should own them. So with the Metis SDK, and we are enabling this decentralized sequencers, which process the information independently, and no one controls the data, and no one actually is able to be nobody is able to compromise the blockchain this way, right? So it also has some AI native applications building that it will allow. Very cool thing that it will allow is the cross-chain interoperability, which is very important for us as well. And that's another stepping block or stepping stone for the decentralization. It's a solution that will allow the Metis cross-chain collaboration with other chains. It could be Bitcoin L2 networks. We're actually building one. It's called GOAT, or it could be others. And it will allow us to unify the liquidity and have access to this liquidity for us, for our developers, for our users. So this SDK will be fully EVM compatible, which makes it super easy for developers to build on. As I mentioned, we're enhancing its performance with some speculative parallel execution. And we're integrating some AI infrastructure features, which are very important and instrumental for us to be able to deliver on our vision of being a home for AI.
Let me ask you a question about a semi-competitor, not really competitor. There is another AI founder out there. He has one of the largest AI models, clearly working closely with the U.S. State Department. And he also has an AI, maybe not a marketplace, but it's an AI-based altcoin. Sam Altman. What are your thoughts on Sam Altman?
Heard about this guy.
You've heard about it. Yeah, we've heard of it. I've heard don't be a whistleblower in his company.
Well, and as we know, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, OpenAI launched a lawsuit against Elon Musk. I think they have a little bit of bromance going on there between the two. Absolutely, and of course, also known for the Altcoin, right? So many things. What are my thoughts on Sam Altman? Well, I don't like talking personalities, but OpenAI is obviously doing great. It's started almost as being the front runner, but I think a lot of different AI models are catching up with them. And I'm a bit also concerned with the departure of the nonprofit model. And it seems like they're trying to transition to for-profit. And I think, when I started with highlighting the issue that AI is facing today, where it's centralized and kind of everyone or single very powerful entities control everything. And I think that's what we need to move away on, and to give power to the people so they actually own their data and can benefit from it. And that's what we are building.
Now, with our communities that are involved with artificial intelligence right now, I know you did just participate in Ethereum Denver. What are the conversations that you're seeing around the development of AI agents? It's been kind of bleeding ever since the whole ChatGPT bubble we saw in 2023, and we've seen a lot of projects gain all this hype, all this attention. What were the issues with these projects, and are a lot of these projects not only coming back, are you guys building that through Hyperion?
We have our own AI agent system. We call that Alice. We view it as the it's basically it's all part of this puzzle that we're solving, right? It's very cool. It gives every developer or the user a tool to have its own AI agent essentially, and I find they can be instrumental and really help a lot to the business owners, to the people, to become more efficient. But I think it needs to be looked at in there has to be a greater purpose, the greater goal of why we need it. Because I think on its own, there is just too much of it, and maybe not necessarily that much value that is being delivered, and the value is being diluted. But I think what we are doing, we're actually seeing that these AI agents will be participating ultimately along with the humans or along with the dApps that are building. They will be all kind of part of the less AI ecosystem that I mentioned, and they will be participating in the governance process and verification process of the data, and ultimately, real members of that of the less AI space. So I think, individually it's great, but I think it's ultimately needs to be part of something bigger.
Now, let me ask you one question about your son. Obviously, I know you probably get inundated with questions, but this is also, I want to know about your reaction to something. So, if I'm not mistaken, everyone moved to Canada. He was a wee child, about 5-6 years old. I remember him in a story, he said he coded his first video game at the age of 10. Did you see him taking apart a computer, taking apart, pulling a 3.5 floppy disk in half? Did you see him breaking any of your electronics and have an initial reaction? What are you doing?
You know what? I actually never seen him breaking anything up. What I have seen a lot is his extreme focus from the young age. There are these pictures on the internet where he is essentially 2 years old and he's in front of the computer and he is doing some calculations on Excel. He was from the childhood. He was obsessed with the math, with computers. So yes, I think it was kind of seen from the beginning.
And I thought I was nerdy. Jeez.
I don't even remember what I was doing at 2 years old. That is so. Has the family always been? I mean, you guys are building some of the most powerful tools in Web3. Has this been something that's just been embedded into not only your lifestyle as well, but just as a family culture growing up, or is this what got you into crypto?
Well, what got me into crypto is my son to start with, right? But ultimately, it's this idea of importance of, I'm a big believer in decentralization. My title, Metis, is Decentralization Coordinator. I believe that we need to have safeguards against decentralized powers, and that's what decentralization delivers. And we see a lot of it going on in the world. Everyone is trying to, show who has a bigger muscle there. But ultimately, I think in order for the world to be happy and in order for the people to thrive, we need to kind of move past that. And it means that we cannot be held hostage by the governments or by the corporate entities or by whoever it is. And we should be able to make our decisions free. And I believe that Web3 allows you to do that.
Right. I would agree as well. Nataliya, it's been a wonderful time talking to you. Thank you for telling us everything you guys are doing over there at Metis. And if you want to go check it out, metis.io, instant L2, AI aligned, but human defined. No Skynet here.
And the tip, it's Metis.
Metis.
Oh, now we get to correct everybody in the United States. Everybody says it wrong here. Is that's what you're doing at ETH Denver? Was telling everybody to pronounce it right? It's Metis?
No, they're like, meet you where? Where do I meet you?
There's a very easy way to remember it. We say there is me in Metis.
I like that. Well, that's good to know. Now we're gonna be it's like I went to Prague once and people go, it's pronounced Praha every time, the whole time I was there. So now we got to do that at every single Bitcoin conference. It's gonna be
Metis. Metis, yes. Yeah. Greek goddess.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And Nataliya, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Being here.
All right. Fun stuff. All right. I want to ask more questions about young Vitalic, but, wanted to respect her time there. And one last thing I want to talk about Solana here. Solana, major news for Solana. That's right. We're going from Vitalic's mom to Solana. Shh, don't tell her. A major tech firm is now acquiring Solana, similar to a Bitcoin strategy here. They ended up acquiring $4.6 million Solana, and they said they looked at a lot of different crypto assets, and they're laying the groundwork for accumulating them. But Solana was chosen as the first asset for this initiative. So good news for Solana holders out there. And looking at the price action, it's not good news if you've been holding the token since the 290 top when Donald Trump released his meme coin. And we pointed out, I actually didn't test it. We should have looked at this 2-3 days ago. This was the bottom end of that falling wedge. And I said, it could still hold. Folks, it still holds. So Solana looking good on some of the larger time frames there.
All right.
Well, Josh, anything you want? I'm about to go do a members stream for the members only. There's a join button down below. I'm going to answer all your questions, maybe do a little bit of a deep dive in the stock market, do a deep dive in the Cardano ecosystem. And most importantly, though, listen to you guys and see what you guys are asking. And just, anything you want to know.
Yeah, no,
I'm
I think
I'm going to answer.
I think chat was, guys, that was Vitalic's mother. I think that was, she works with Metis now. We know how to pronounce that properly. And Hyperion. So, yeah, I mean, today I'll be working on for our video today. I got, of course, the speech. I'll be breaking down with you guys how to pass, how we're operating and working with not only the representatives in the state of Florida, but as well as senators on a national scale here. So I'll be covering
that one.
I'll be
right below you, Josh. I forgot to
I'll be
ask
covering
that
the. No, it's good that we didn't. We got to be
good.
Gotta be somewhere.
Well, she fled. They fled. She might have a different view of communism than really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have.
It's like you weren't in the bread line, Vitalic.
Yeah.
We brought your butt to Canada as a wee youngin.
Yeah, that'd be a. We could probably do a 30-minute.
She might be like pissed off when she sees those posts. Like, no, it's not. That's why we moved.
It's not what you think. Well, either way, back to guys. Video tonight's gonna be going out probably towards about 7 o'clock. You guys know what's gonna happen here. I'm totally broken here. I haven't eaten in about 12 hours because I got in late. I need caffeine. I just drove for 16 hours. I'm a little bit. I honestly, I totally forgot we were having Vitalic's mom today. I'm like all discombobulated walking in from a 16-hour drive. We're pushing bills to the house, and they're like, "Yep, Vitalic's mom's coming on." So that was it was a great show, guys. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button if you guys are on X. This was the first live stream on Discover Crypto's live account. We are back, baby. So hit that repost and hit that like button across the board. And DZ, let's have a great weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see y'all in the member stream.